real adjusted unemployment is what, 16%, 17%? For how many jobs are they destroying in the process of creating jobs? How many companies are laying off people to pay the increased taxes the government is laying on them? How many jobs are being lost in the creation of jobs? You want to hear what it sounds like when a force of job loss debates a force of job creation? The engine of the economy versus the cruncher of the economy? Listen to this. Cue up Steve Wynn and Jennifer Granholm. This is Fox News Sunday with Chris Wallace. This is Jennifer Granholm versus Steve Wynn of Wynn Casinos and Resorts. Play it.
Steve Wynn, where do you draw the line between the proper role of government in all of this and the proper role of the private sector?
Government has never increased the standard of living of one single human being in civilization's history. For some reason, that simple truth has evaded everybody. The only thing that creates an increased standard of living is giving someone a job. The demand for their labor, whether it's you and I, Chris, or anybody else. The people that are paying the price for this juggernaut of federal spending are the middle class and the working class of America. And soaring rhetoric and great speeches with or without a teleprompter aren't going to change the truth. And the truth is the biggest enemy, the biggest obstacle the working middle class America has is government spending.
Wait, Steve, let me bring in Governor Granholm, who looks like she wants to come out of her seat at this.
Well, I mean, it's just so simplistic to say that. And with all due respect, I mean, to say that government has never created a job or increased the standard of living, you know, I mean, there are a lot of people who are grateful that in this country we have a minimum wage. There are a lot of people who are grateful that they have access to Medicare and Medicaid. And I hope that we get access further to additional health care for those who are right now uninsured. I mean, there is a balance here. To say that government is all evil, this is a democracy. It's the greatest country in the world.
Shut her up. Stop her.
Moonbat.
This woman should be wearing a dunce cap and standing in the corner with her back turned. Wynn is 100% right. Because here's the thing. When the government air fingers quotes, hey, come closer to the radio. I'm going to provide you perfectly executed political and economic analysis. When the government, air finger quotes, creates jobs, what does that mean? When a job is created, what does that mean? Well, it means that a task is to be performed, one that is necessary. As Wynn put it, there's a demand for labor. When the government just creates jobs, it creates jobs or tasks to be performed where there is no demand for labor. Now, again, if we were to put this on a chalkboard, if you were to try to do this in an equation, demand, D would represent demand. D would equal need plus means, or desire plus means. Demand is not the simple or simplistic need for a product or service. It must come with the means to acquire that service attached to it. So demand equals desire or need plus the means to acquire. It is what it is. In the private sector, one must have capital to pay for labor. It can't just desire labor, it has to pay for labor. Where it gets the capital from is not through coercion. You can't force someone to create a job. You can't force someone to give you money to start a business. You must acquire capital to cover the cost of labor to turn out a product or service, whatever that product or service is. But first must there be capital to create jobs. You have to have capital and a need for labor. In other words, tasks must be performed. If the government simply creates jobs, it forces tax-paying citizens to pay for labor that it otherwise doesn't need. and in many cases can't afford. So in order to create these jobs, like saving or creating 62,000 jobs in the state of California, money must be extracted from some other portion of the economy. Someone else's budget must be infringed upon in the private sector because the government only raises revenue from the private sector. So if the government's going to create public sector jobs, whether it's a teaching job or it's building a road or whatever the hell it is, the government must acquire capital. The government, unlike the private sector, can acquire capital through coercion. The government is coercing one group of people to hire another group of people. When the government does that, it takes money out of the economy, money that would be used to acquire labor in the private sector, therefore forcing the private sector to trim its labor rolls to compensate for the money taken out of its hands to be used to hire public sector workers. You can't just create a job out of thin air. You have to destroy one in the process. 1-866-95-PATRIOT, 1-866-95-PATRIOT. That's perfectly executed political analysis because capitalism is boss. This is the Wilkow Majority, WilkowMajority.com. Send us pictures of you in your Wilkow Majority shirts, photos at WilkowMajority.com. We're right, they're wrong. That's the end of the story. Sirius Patriot 144 XM America.